Hello viewers, SBY with you once again. It is time for round 5. So after this race we'll be halfway through the season, and it's definitely been a mixed bag so far. We've had a win, but we've also had some pretty awful performances as well. Hopefully this will turn out to be more like the former, and I think the track today represents my first chance to really do well in the Group 4 car. So the only race we've had in these particular cars so far was not really suited to the Alfa, but today we are at Sardinia C, which is a much shorter track with a couple of tricky technical corners that I think the Alfa should do quite well on. So the Group 4 cars, 25 laps, hard tyres mandatory. As you can see here, after last week I stood 11th in the standings for Alfa Romeo. There I am. If you look closely you can see my round 3 win, which is my best performance so far, got me 183 points. A lot of the guys ahead of me have scored considerably more in a single round. You could see there a win today is worth 191, so a slight improvement, but ultimately the number of points on offer is based on the strength of the competition in your particular lobby. So the only way you get even more points is to keep on winning and get matched with stronger drivers in future races. So that is the plan. Let's see how we get on. So this is coming up to the first flying lap of qualifying. Only 5 minutes for qualifying, but with it being such a short lap, as I mentioned, about 56, 57 seconds at best, I'm going to get a few laps to try and set a decent time here. So I've tucked in behind Sam, who's in the Nissan there, just to try and get a bit of slipstream. There's only 3 main corners on this track where you really have to sort of hit the brakes and slow down, and it's critical for each one of them to try and carry speed through the corner and then get as high a speed as possible coming out. You see I made a bit of a mess of that left-hander there. A little bit of a skid, and then another one there slowed me down a bit, so this is not a particularly good start. This is probably the trickiest corner on the track, is the final bend. You have to try and time it right and get a good slingshot out without losing too much pace around the corner, and again, that wasn't a particularly good effort for me. So we're gonna come through for a 57.2, which puts us 5th at the minute, but you can see that drop down rapidly as other cars start to come through, and soon I'm going to be in the bottom half of the standings, so there is definitely more work to be done in the next 2.5 minutes. Again, not ideal around the first left-hander, it's got to be a bit smoother than that, really. Now I've been dropped by the guys ahead of me as well, which is never a good sign when you're qualifying. Slightly better, you just got to try and get a bit of drift, get a good sort of slip angle on the left-hander there. It was slightly better, but you can see we're still slightly down on the split time. So this needs to improve. We're only going to have a couple of laps left to do it. Round the final corner again not ideal. Going to get another chance though. Down in 14th at the minute. It's going to come through for a 56.6, which bumps us up to 8th. So that's okay, but again, not as good as we need it to be. You don't want to be stuck in the middle of the pack at the start of this race. You need to be further towards the front, and this time the left-hander is a lot better. Get through smoothly, get on the power early, and that will give us a speed advantage all the way up this straight towards the next turn. So just after the 50, hit the brakes briefly, drift the car in slightly, and then get back on the power much better this time. Accelerating all the way up into 5th gear before the split, and a 1/4 of a second up this time. So looking much better. There's still time to be made up on the final corner as well if I can get it right. Into 3rd, down into 2nd, let the car roll up through the hill and then back on the power, and again that is much better. You can see I've gained on Sam in front of me again, and this time we are going to bring it through for a 56.199, and that is as good as it got, but that does put us in 3rd place, so a lot better there on that lap, just 700ths off the leader. And you can see there as well that in 1st place is the other Alfa Romeo in the lobby, so the Alfa's obviously getting a bit of an advantage here. So here we go, start of the race, rolling start, which is never great, but obviously it's a lot better, a lot more preferable to be up at the front of the pack. You can see on the map there in the top right, the guys who are starting near the back are almost halfway around the track still. You never have hope in hell of winning if you're starting there. So need to be near the front, which we've managed to do. So let's see what we can do as we get away. Gonna have to watch out at the start here, as we've said many times before in this series of videos. Straight line speed, not the Alfa's forte. And you can see behind me, as I'm looking behind frantically, and the McLaren is gaining, I'm going to have to take a defensive line just to stop him getting past. Just park it on the apex there, make sure there's no way past for him. Now KKR ahead of us in the Lamborghini didn't have a great run out of there, so I'm going to be right on his rear bumper coming into the next corner. Just going to back off a little bit, make sure we get a good run through, and he's pushed it wide, and that gives me a chance to go up the inside and into second place. A good start here allows us to hunt down our fellow Alfa driver, KSZR, and see if we can stick with him as we come through the first few laps. He's not had a great run out of that corner, he's drifted a little bit wide, didn't really get on the power early enough, and that is going to give us the slipstream down the home straight. But again, we're going to have to watch out behind. As you can see how nervous I am, checking the rear view a few times to see where this Lamborghini is going to go. I'm going to keep it slightly defensive, just make sure he goes to the outside before tucking in. And this time, KSZR goes wide. We've got alongside him, and he's just clipped the curb there, and that is going to allow me through and into the lead of the race. Our friend in the Lamborghini looking to make a move as well. There's nowhere else for him to go though. He's going to give me a bit of a nudge, which doesn't help coming into this corner, so I basically have to slow down there and just park it on the apex. But it seems to have worked out alright. So coming towards the end of lap 2, we look to be in a pretty good position. Put the brakes hard here, and it's another good effort on the final corner. So good in fact that not only have we got ourselves into the lead at the end of lap 2, we are also out of slipstream range. So as we come through to start lap 3, it is time to go, go, go. So lap 3, through into lap 4, you can see on the left, you can see the gap just inching upwards, growing ever so slightly with each lap as we go through to lap 5. Still climbing into lap 6, nearly 3 seconds ahead now, and now we are going to skip all the way ahead to lap 19. And as we come back into view, look at the lead we've got, over 11 seconds. At this point I've backed off a bit just to try and save the tyres. Remember from the start the hard tyres are mandatory, so I have got to pit, but if I can keep the tyres like this, they're not looking too shabby at the minute. I've just sort of backed off a bit, doing mid 57s pretty consistently. So if I can keep it like this, make sure I pit after everybody else so I don't get drawn back into the pack, should be able to just cruise to victory. Yeah, this is where I start to think. The guys behind me haven't pitted yet. Hard tyres are mandatory. Nothing else is mandatory. Oh shit. These guys aren't pitting. So I haven't really thought this through. I've just been, I'm not sure why. This is the point, you can see, at which I'll try and put the hammer down again, because I've realised these guys aren't going to pit. They're on the hard tyres now, unlike myself. So although I'm over 12 seconds clear at this point, I need to get a move on, because I don't know how long it takes to pit, but I'm pretty sure it's more than 12 seconds. So as I come through now, down to the start of lap 21, I'm going to push harder and harder to try and make up time, because I'm going to need it if I want to stay in the lead. They're coming down now, hitting brakes hard, trying to send it with as much speed as possible, but you can see now, just pushing that bit harder, bumping over the gravel and over the curb. The problem has happened so often is that if you try and push the car harder, you often end up just slightly out of control and you rarely actually gain any time. So these laps not really going to be any quicker than the ones preceding them when I was taking a bit easier. But we will see how much time we can gain before we have to pit. We should still be able to go all the way to the end of lap 24 before pitting. See if we can gain any more time and then see where that will get us. So I don't really know why I failed to realise what was going on. I suppose partly this was the first race of the day. I didn't have the chance to observe anybody else racing, to see what the strategies might have been, see what tactics people were running, etc. Mainly it's down to my own obliviousness, if that's a word. It should have been obvious to me when I was gaining sort of half a second a lap every lap, in between sort of lap 3 and lap 19, that the guys behind me weren't running the same tyres as me. I just assumed they were sort of fighting with each other, and that was what was allowing me to make the breakaway. It took me forever to realise. Stupid. Anyway, end of lap 22. Still increasing the gap slightly, so I'm still thinking there's a chance I might just get away with this. Got 2 more laps to try and eke out some more time, but as you can see, the laps are just getting slightly slower, if anything. I need to try and take this a bit smoother. The tyres probably are now starting to cause a few problems. Just wearing that little bit extra. That causes issues, particularly through this corner when you have to sort of chuck the car in and drift it a little bit. Didn't do too badly that time, but as you can see, the split time is still down nearly half a second. I have to hope that the people behind me are going to start to fade away as well, otherwise I'm going to be dropping back through the pack after I make the pit stop. So right on the final turn again, towards lap 24, I'm going to do one more lap on these tyres and then pit and just do a single lap dash on the hards towards the finish. So much slower now. You can see the gap is not really growing, so it looks like, in all honesty, unless it's a very short pit stop, the race win has probably gone. And I was so happy with myself earlier. Nonetheless, in we come into the pits for the required pit stop to get the hard tyres on. No fuel needed, just the tyre change, but all that we can do is wait an absolute age for the car to come into the pits, drum our fingers on the steering wheel and wait to see where we come out. Come on, pit crew, gonna move on, see where we come out. Won't show exactly until we come out to the track. You see people flying past the left hand side as I come out into 5th place. So first place, as I said, long gone, as I thought. But if I'd played the race right, if I'd known or realised or thought about what other people were going to be able to do, I would likely have been able to put a bit more speed into the preceding laps and probably would have come out ahead of this little cluster of cars ahead of me and into 2nd place. As it is, we're going to keep pushing just in case they have a bit of a tangle on the final corner. You never know. As we come round for the final corner of the final lap, it looks like they're all going to make it through safely and just drag race each other to the line. And what that means for us is that we are going to bring it round for the end of the race and finish in 5th place. So not a shabby result by any means, but I did qualify 3rd and I've lost 2 places, so disappointed in myself for getting that bit a bit wrong, to be honest. Technically I drove well, but the brain was sadly still stuck in 3rd gear. This also meant I finished behind my fellow Alfa driver, which will not do the manufacturer standings any good from my perspective. Nonetheless, 159 points is still my 2nd best round so far. So, still some progress made. You can see, though, I did drop to 13th from 11th in the Alfa rankings, so more work to be done, unfortunately. But please do join me again next time, where I will do my very best to think about things before the race starts. So, hope to see you all then. This has been SBY818. Catch you next time. Goodbye.